Hello, welcome. It's Prema, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Welcome back. And if you're new, I'm so glad that you're joining us for the first time. Today, I really want to talk about something that I have been bumping into with my clients, something that I've had to navigate time and time and time again. And this is all around making decisions. And how do you make those decisions, those intuitive decisions for your business that you can really trust and that really won't burn you out? So, how do you move from alignment instead of the outer pressure of what you should do and what everybody else is doing? So, I want you to think about this for a minute. Like, what if one of the main reasons your business isn't flowing at the level you'd like it to be or in the direction you'd like it to be? Maybe it's not your strategy, but maybe it's really your decision making energy. And this applies to your work in the world too. So if you don't have a business and something's emerging from you or the way you're using your purpose within, the context of the work that you are doing, this all applies. So most conscious leaders are making decisions from pressure and from alignment. And I know that when I say conscious leaders, that I'm talking about, that we're conscious, but the truth is there is so much input coming in from the outside that it is not so easy to hold that place of alignment. And that's something that we talk about a lot on this show, something that's near and dear to my heart. And it really is a practice. It's not something that we strike the string of alignment and then we're just there forever. We want to move from this place of alignment, not urgency, not from the pressure from the outside. And yes, that does include your intuition. Staying away from what you think you should do and really moving towards what actually expands you, what enlivens you, what's really aligned with your values and the future vision for yourself. So, we're going to shift that and the things that keep us stuck in the place of wasting a lot of time because we aren't able to make a decision. We'll learn how to make those choices, to make those decisions that grow your business, that grow your work in the world, and are in alignment with the energy of who you are becoming. I know this is a big game changer for me when I really started to embrace this as not a one time thing that check off the list. Okay, I made that decision and it was from alignment. Okay, now I'm going to, just go back to making decisions from urgency. But when I started to make it a practice, when I took the regular time to look at the decisions that it was time to make each and every day or over a week or over a month. So really weighing the vision of where am I going with my work in the world? Where am I going with my business? How do I want it to grow? Who do I want it to touch? How do I want to feel while I am, doing my work in the world? And are the choices that I'm making in alignment with that, or are they going to take me away from that? There was many pivotal moments in this, but there was a time where I was following a particular strategy in my business, and it became more and more uncomfortable. It felt like more and more like things I had to do, things that were heavy lifting, basically. And there are times in our business that we are going to have to put the effort in. 100%, absolutely. It's not all easy breezy, but when you are putting the effort in because there's an inspiration behind that, because it's aligned, because that there's value there, then you find the energy for it. And when it's connected to your purpose will always pull you forward. So we're going to dive into this whole subject about making aligned decisions that actually grow your business without burning you out. But first, I want to remind you that we do take live callers on the show, and the number there is 1-866-451-1451. And if you're watching this live, you'll see that on the screen. If you have questions or comments or topics that you want me to address, please email me at askprema@soulutionary.com, SOULUTIONARY.com. And that's also with the show notes. We're going to dive into a couple of the current Vedic astrology trends. First, we'll just take a few minutes for that, and then we'll dive into our main topic. So, the planetary energy right now that actually supports our clear decision making and sort of that recalibration of our long term alignment. We've got a few different things. The sun, which is our great leader and our great king in the sacred wealth code archetype system, has moved into Aries. And that's actually the beginning of the Vedic New Year. And that gives us this brilliant, clear, bright energy to stand forward with our independence, with our authenticity, and to start something new. We can always start something new, but this is a great energy because of the energetic time that we currently are in, and having come through a lot of chaotic energy and in the place of Pisces, which is very otherworldly and kind of hard to pin down, that having this energy of the sun very brilliant right now is very helpful for our clarity and for our inner drive to really move forward with what lights us up. Mercury has also been direct for a while, but it's getting more space from Rahu, the north node of the moon. And Mercury's our communicator, but it's also the merchant, which rules business. And one of the mantras for the merchant is opportunities to prosper are everywhere. But we need to know which opportunities are for us. And because it's getting some space from the magician, from the north node of the moon, it's Mercury and our clarity is a little less confused than it has been. Although, because it is still in Pisces till May 7th of 2025, we are still being called to lean more into our intuitive decision making. Now, that is something that we want to lean into anyway, but it's highlighted during this time. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to create this podcast, which is timeless. You can listen to this at any time for the main topic here, but this is really sort of a new level of decision making and being able to really touch in with our intuition and being able to trust that, and then put some practical strategy around us that we are all sort of being called to exercise our muscles around. And the main transit we have right now is Saturn and Rahu in Pisces. They are in a conjunction right now, and a pretty tight conjunction at the time of this episode. And this really is about where karmic pressure meets spiritual awakening. So this is the great organizer or administrator in the sacred wealth code system. Everything has its rightful place, and Saturn's all about the long run, not the short run, and lining up with Rahu, the north node of the moon. And Rahu is a very, very interesting energy. It's a wild card. It's desire driven. It's very unconventional and hungry for growth. But not all growth is created equal. We want that inner growth that also leads to the outer growth that we want. Sometimes that north node of the moon, Rahu, can encourage us to go sort of wide and entertain a lot of things, like spin a lot of different plates. And Saturn wants us to go more narrow and be in something for the long run. It's the long distance runner, it's the marathon runner. And the prize is at the end, where Rahu is looking for the shiny object and the prize in every moment. So they're really contradictory energies in a lot of ways. This can put a lot of inner pressure on us, but it also can bring out a really creative energy on how we put things in their rightful place, Saturn, how we commit, and how we create discipline and structure for the long run. And that's what this energy is very good for. But I will fully admit it's not easy to strike that particular balance. And the inner pressure that you can feel to do it all, or you're not where you should be farther along. And you're not far enough along in the game, can then make you sometimes make choices that aren't necessarily aligned with where you're really going. It's more to satisfy some external pressure that you're feeling, or it's actually internal pressure, but external comparison maybe, that or shiny object syndrome that you're dealing with, to make it feel like, something's happening right here and right now. So this is sort of the teeter-totter that we are on. And what I want to invite you to do is to be very in touch with what is your vision for yourself personally, for your work in the world, for your business, and what is the purpose? What is your purpose in those things? And when we can weigh our decisions against, hey, is this going to really lead me to where I'm going, where I want to be going, who I am becoming? And is this going to enliven me? Is this aligned with my purpose? Then that gives us a place to start to bounce our decisions off of, and very importantly, be able to mm, help us to be able to see through these times that might not um, be as clear, because it is still a little bit foggy. So this energy is really pushing us in a way to redefine success, but we want to do it not through those external matrix, but through our internal alignment. And in order to do it from an internal alignment, we've got to be familiar with our internal alignment. And this is, again, something that you're always going to hear on the show in my Sacred Wealth Mastery program. It is one of the core pillars, along with our divine timing, our purpose, our high value gifts, and our alignment. And alignment for you is personal. It's personal. You have a soul blueprint. You have a way that you are wired up. You have divine gifts that you're called to use, that you were born with a PhD in. And you have a unique timing of the unfoldment of where you're called to really step into your gifts, when, how, and your initiations and your soul challenges that at some level you've chosen to go through so you could overcome and find out who you are on the other side, develop yourself. And these aren't always easy places. And we've been talking a lot about this in episode 11, 12, and 13, and sort of how do you navigate these big shifts when we are going through these times where everything is shifting and changing, and our identity is, and our voice and our message, and all of that is shifting and changing. So how do you actually calibrate, and what do you weigh who your choices against? Again, it needs to be from an internal framework that does have a constant to it, that it's not always in flux. So let's dive in here and talk. Well, actually, I want to mention one more thing about Rahu. We always have this in our chart somewhere, and it just happens to be in Pisces in Vedic astrology. It's going to move into Aquarius at the end of May. Rahu's influence can make us chase goals, obsess over plans, and compare ourselves to others. And in Pisces, sometimes this looks like spiritual bypassing or clinging on to mystical ideas or philosophy without the true embodiment, like you're not living it. Maybe you know what it is, but you're not living it. So with Saturn being there, Saturn sort of asks, is this alignment with your integrity? Is it with your soul purpose? And again, that's why we want to weigh our choices against something that is more of a constant. So during this time, especially, you want to slow down so that you can hear that voice of your inner knowing. That's always good advice. And you want to be able to choose that inner authority. This transit that we're going through highlights something that we always want to be developing, and that's our radical self-trust. Can we really trust ourselves? And where does that trust live within us? We'll do a practice around that in our episode today towards the end, about finding the trust within ourselves to make those intuitive choices. Like, what is the decision that's really in alignment when we're getting that intuitive download, or when we just feel confused? Like, which way do we actually turn? What's a big yes and what's a big no? Because your soul is always reminding you that clarity doesn't mean knowing everything. It means knowing what's aligned right now. And sometimes what's aligned right now may not be aligned for the long run, but it moves us along our own evolution, what we need to grow, how we need to develop ourselves, or who we may even need to meet in order to be in alignment with what we're choosing for the long run. So we are living in very complex energetic times. And overall, this is a time that's got a lot of polarity in it. So the more you can really know where there's a place that's true within you and know how to trust the information that is coming through more than what you're absorbing from the outside, and how to sort of sift and sort and discern all that, the clearer choices that you'll be able to make. And look, we all chose to be here at this particular very poignant time, or else we wouldn't be here, right? And you have something inside you that unlocks something in the world that only you can unlock. And your journey is part of unlocking that, your realization, your evolution of using your gifts and even knowing what they are. So let's dive in here and go in a little deeper on how you actually can make those decisions that really grow what you're here to give and do, but don't burn you out. Because if you're using everybody's strategy, I guarantee you are going to be burning out. I was actually just looking at everything that I was doing recently and realizing, and this is really probably over the last 3 months, and realizing that I was also going a little bit too wide, so to speak. So when I make content, for instance, for social media or for YouTube, that is just based on the current transits, that's a flash in the pan. That's something that doesn't last very long. And it actually takes a good amount of energy for me to create that. And I really realized that that was starting to burn me out. So, look, we all know in business, create things that are long lasting, evergreen. And that's what this podcast is all about. But at the same time, there are things that are just emergent in the moment in our business. So I've really narrowed down some of what I am doing that is just going to be relevant for a very short period of time, and pouring more of my energetic currency into things that are longer lasting. And that way, I'm not only conserving my energy so that I have more to pour into what really enlivens me, but it's like I'm taking my energy from being more of a floodlight to more of a laser beam. It's more focused that way. And in the times that we're living in, and in the business climate, there's just so much noise in the world that the more you're able to stand in for who you are and what you take a stand for, the more that who you're here to serve can actually hear you, see you, and tune in with you. And that's a service that you're doing not just for yourself, but for others to be able to hear you or see you. So oftentimes we don't need more strategy. We need to trust the energy behind our yes. We look, you're very smart, you're very capable, and just notice if you are burned out. And if you are, my first question to you is, what is burning you out? What is burning you out? Because that may need to be put down. Like I put down doing as much, social media and things like that. And now things are more repurposed. If you're choosing from outdated metrics, you're probably in the energy of the fear of missing out, and maybe in the energy of trying to create past results. So again, looking at the past and seeing how it was done and then wanting just to create that again. But when you're creating something new, you're going to be creating new results. And that's going to have a whole different paradigm. Also, really watching out for desiring and seeking and going after other people's approval, or even old versions of success. All of this is going to burn you out. So I want to give you the sacred space and the tools to start making decisions from your authentic frequency, based on expansion and not based on exhaustion. So how do you know if it's a big yes or if it's a no? I will again lead you through a practice at the end of our conversation here or before we wrapped up today so that you can actually make a decision about something. So when you are saying yes to something, you often are saying no to something at the same time. And I think that's one of the things that jams our circuits. Well, if I say yes to this, if I say yes to this opportunity, if I say yes to this client, if I say yes to this deal, well, then I have to say no to some other things. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever you say no to also opens up space. And again, we can't entertain it all. It's like we can only spin so many plates. And if we're trying to spin too many, we don't have enough energetic currency to fuel the forward momentum. Again, we're just going too wide. We need to be able to take the inspired actions on those things that we're saying yes to. But if you don't have if you don't have the bandwidth physically, energetically, you won't take the inspired actions, and therefore you'll just stay spinning in your head over and over again. I've heard this said, I think I heard Tony Robbins say this: action leads to results. No results without action. Well, sometimes the action of holding a very strong intention and making choices on yes or no to things that are in alignment with you or not very much can lead to results. But here's the thing about action. Inspired action from that yes that you're getting, and you're just taking the next step on that starts to bring it down into embodiment. And then you get more information. So if you take a step, so if you get a download that, hey, there's a new program that you want to create, there's a book that you want to write, there's a new way of doing something, it's a new innovative way, and you want to really step into that. Or maybe you want to take a complete course change and dive more into art than business consulting, just depending on where you're at. Well, if you're willing to take just the next inspired action, you give the divine, you give your soul an opportunity to kick your feet in the right direction. But if you stay in your head with it, it's like you don't go into the testing ground, and we have to go into the testing ground with it. But when we go from a place of truly inspired action, like we tap into our soul and we ask for, what is this next step? And then we trust it and we take it, we're going to get a lot of information back. And we are going to shortcut the process of just taking a bunch of random actions. And again, you will walk away with an inspired action today. You need to know what that big yes is, though. And you need to be brave enough to say no and change course if necessary. I've changed course many a time. And sometimes it's a micro change in the way I'm doing things, like just what I was talking to you about. Sometimes it's a big macro change, like when I closed down my yoga center and I just completely shifted my business. So we have those micro changes and those macro changes. Course changes. Look, change is just so unpredictable, and anything new you want to birth is going to require change, and it's going to require you to trust the unknown. Everything that you already know lives, that's more of the left brain. The left brain's always looking to create the next move from something that you've got evidence it's going to work, whether that was a business strategy that you've seen somebody do or yourself do, whether that is again, doing some template of how you've done it in the past or somebody else has done it in the past. That is a safety zone, but a lot of times it's a false safety zone, because if it's not aligned with you, then it's not going to bring you the results you desire. Whereas the things that are new and different that you want, that is in the unknown. And that unknown place, that place of, creativity, is definitely not as secure, because nobody has walked that path. And that's why we want to be able to walk it one yes at a time, one inspired action at a time. So sometimes our strategy isn't working because we've outgrown the identity behind it. And we talked a lot about that in episode 11 and 12, when you evolve internally and your external systems just, may not match up. And this is, again, there's just a lot of breakdown that happens. You may have outgrown how you make decisions, and that's why it's essential to learn a new way to make decisions and a way that you can actually trust. That's the key piece, because if you're trusting the decision you're making, there is no wrong decision. It may not lead exactly to what you thought, but that's not always how the aligned intuitive decisions work. They'll lead you to what you need to know next. And if you can trust that, okay, from here, I can tune in for the next aligned decision, and you know there is no wrong decision, then you can get forward momentum and you can keep it moving, and quite rapidly also. But you can't make aligned decisions using, again, those old metrics, especially from performance, perfectionism, and from people pleasing. You will not please everyone with your decisions. You will not please everyone. There are plenty of people who are not pleased that I won't be releasing as much free astrology content as often as I was. But if they want more of that, they can come into my Sacred Wealth Mastery program. And they can, because I really dive deep into all of that, including we even have a business astrology call every month. And how do you, your particular chart and alignment, and, when's the best time to launch? When's the best time to lean back? When's the best time to, create something new? All the things. So you can't always please everyone. And that's a big one. And especially if you're an empath, and I have a lot of empaths in my community. But can you please yourself first? Because that's where your energetic frequency is going to really be dialed up. And that attracts you to the right circumstances and choices, that alone. So most conscious entrepreneurs get stuck here if their old way of choosing brought them some success, but that success isn't really what feels right now. So the safety part of you may choose an old way of doing something, even if that's not aligned with where you're going, because it brought you some success in the past. So if you were running a group program, if you were producing a particular product in your company, and maybe it doesn't enliven you anymore, but it brought in the cash, you may keep doing that. Now, there's nothing wrong with creating security for yourself and financial security. So if that's the case, and you're going to do the same, say, product or service, then how can you bring yourself, the new you, more authentically to that? That would be one way to work with that. True alignment lives in our body, not in our spreadsheet. And one of the most powerful shifts you can make is to move from your mental decision making into your like your energetic resonance. And sometimes we want clarity before we take the leap, but it feels like you're supposed to leap to get the clarity. So this juxtaposition keeps people stuck. And an aligned yes feels, expansive, energizing, even calming, and usually pretty grounded. And a fear-based yes tends to feel more urgent, sometimes confusing, and exhausting, because a fear-based yes usually is enrolling us into something we don't really want to do, and that exhausts us before we even start. So what I want to invite you to do is I want to invite you just to take a moment and recall a choice that you made in your business, in your work in the world, that really wore you out, that has been exhausting for you. And I can feel for some of you that you're in that choice now. You're living that choice out. So just tune into how that feels, or how that felt, like how it felt. Did it feel heavy, contracting? Did it feel just sort of flat? Like, how did that feel? Just tune into that for a moment. And then I want to invite you to tune into remember a choice that you made. And I'm also feeling that some of you are going to go, well, I didn't make one. I've never made one of these choices, but I guarantee you have in one way or another. A choice that you made that was really from your intuition. It was trust. You just trusted it. It felt light. It felt easy breezy, even though you didn't have a guarantee. You weren't overpressing yourself. You weren't overthinking. It was like almost like, oh, the natural next thing to do. Like when I wrote my book, I'd been doing this work for a long time. I had never planned on necessarily writing a book, creating oracle deck and journal, but it was just like, oh, okay, that's what I'm going to do next. I didn't put a lot of pressure on it. I just went ahead and started to create. And it's led me many, many wonderful places. So notice the difference between when you are making a decision that is more expansive, light, easy, and when you're making one that's more heavy. And notice that a lot of times it's easier to make an sort of intuitive aligned decision when it doesn't feel like there's a lot of money at stake. Those because you give yourself room to move and there's safety in that. But then we want to be able to take those intuitive decisions, those aligned decisions that may have the potential and that we're aware of to actually bringing in a lot of success, a lot of revenue, and be able to have it light and easy to be able to say a yes or a no. It doesn't really matter as far as what we perceive the external result is going to be. It's still that inner driver of, does this feel light? Is this something that feels like it is aligned with who I'm becoming, where I'm going, as opposed to who I've been? So sometimes alignment can feel a little scary, and not because it's unclear, but because it challenges your old self image. And choosing differently is the work. Even before the inspired action is that choice to be able to choose differently and to be able to give yourself the grace and the space to be able to do that. And decisions that are made are never wasted. Every time you make a decision from alignment, even if it doesn't so-called work the way you thought it would, it strengthens your trust muscle. It strengthens that intuitive part of you, that part of you that's listening to alignment. You build your self-trust through this follow through, not by knowing all the steps ahead of time. Again, that's the left brain mapping out, taking a template of the past and laying it on the future to create some false sense of safety. This is about making the next right choice from who you're becoming and not trying to predict or control. So, some of the archetypes and how they play into this, and then we're going to do a process together. The strategist, where's my strategist? So the strategist, one of the strategist's gifts, this is Mars's card, Mars's or archetype, is clarity, uh, wise decision making, and structured alignment. But Mars doesn't make decisions from process. It's a very polarity. It's like either a yes or either a no. So it can be very useful. And so the block here can be over controlling or stuck in your mind. And the shift here is to trust your long term vision, not just the next move. To really, as the strategist, like where are you going? You want to trust the long term vision. We talked about that at the very beginning of this podcast, and then weigh your choices against that. So the mantra we can use here with the strategist is, I trust my vision and the structure that I create, the pathway that I create. And the strategist, and if you're not looking at the oracle card here, it's a chessboard. It's like you cannot play the whole game of chess from, you can't just go in and make all the moves, right? You have to make a move and wait to see what happens and then make another move. And that's how it is. We take one inspired action at a time. The mystic is another archetype that I want to talk about for a moment that plays into this, like all the archetypes do, but I always like to just highlight a few because we all have the different archetypes in our sacred wealth code. And if you don't have your sacred wealth code, you can get a Sacred Wealth Code reading. You'll find the link with the show notes. You could also take the free Sacred Wealth Code quiz and get one of your archetypes. And that link is with the show notes, and it's on the homepage of Soulutionary.com as well. So the gift with the mystic is that deep inner knowing, that that spiritual timing. The mystic has a lot to do with letting go and being willing to say the no's that make space for the yeses. Sometimes the block here is doubting those intuitive hits or waiting too long to act. And the shift is move when the knowing comes, even if it's not logical and you don't know exactly where it's going. It's like, okay, make the move though. Let go of that thing. Take the next step. And the mantra here is I trust the unseen and act on what I feel. And again, that's what alignment is really understanding your own inner language. And the great nurturer, this is one of the moon's archetypes, and this creates emotional safety and nurtures clarity from within. When we feel safe, we relax, we open up, and we can very much tune into our alignment. It's much easier. In fact, your DNA, as you contract your body, as you're stressed, as you're uptight, your DNA, that beautiful, if you've seen a picture, it looks like a ladder that's like a ribbon, has a slight twist in it. That twist becomes tighter. As you relax, as you open up, you feel more safe. That twist is much looser. DNA are basically receptor sites, and that's where more information can come and go. So creating that feeling of safety is incredibly important, especially for all of us, and especially for us empaths. The block here can be over responsibility or people pleasing that clouds self-trust. Because if you're feeling over responsible, if you're trying to please somebody else, then you aren't going to be putting your alignment first. And the shift here is to let your decision serve you first. And that's what makes it sustainable. You before it serves anyone else. Look, if you do what's good for you, truly good for you, like the right kind of selfish, that's good for you, that your soul is calling you to, that's aligned with who you truly are, that makes you light up, and then that's good for everyone. Even if they don't know it, it's good for them. Because you being who you've come here to be, authentically who you are, is the best thing you could ever be. And the people who aren't aligned with that will fall away. So you want to, again, let your decisions serve you first. And then the mantra here is I nurture my clarity with space, softness, and self-trust. When you're feeling confused, often your circuits are jammed and you haven't given yourself enough space. So sometimes it's just stepping away, getting into nature, quiet time, turn off the noise, don't listen to any other information. Just tune into you might have gotten lost in everybody else's energy and you need to come back home to yourself. So let's do a decision clarity process, and then we'll do an oracle card reading before we wrap up today. So if you have the space to be able to close your eyes, you're not driving, I encourage you to do that. If you need to keep your eyes open, that's fine. And you can always come back to this and do this process at any time. So close your eyes and place your hand on your heart and just start to take some deep, full breaths. Breathe down into your belly. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Just come down into the essence of who you are. As you breathe, just feel the rise and fall of your breath. Have compassion for your humanity. You are a spiritual being, and you are living in this physical world, which requires a lot. And have some compassion for yourself, for your humanity. We're going to drop your mind into your heart. We bring the mind and heart together, we come into coherence. Just doing this creates a shift. Just that. There's just that mind drop into the heart. But we'll take it a lot further than that. So I want to encourage you to take your busy mind, brilliant, but busy, and you're going to drop it straight down, like there's a waterfall moving just gently and beautifully from your head to your heart. And you're just going to let that mind ride all the way down that waterfall, down through your nasal cavity, down through the top of your throat, the base of your throat, the top of your chest, right down into the very center of your chest. And take a deep, full breath. And just let your awareness expand, open up. And I want to invite you to bring into your awareness a decision you've been holding, a choice you've been holding, you haven't quite been able to make. And it's maybe about your offer, maybe about your niche, your visibility, or just your next step. And if you're someone who doesn't have a decision like that sort of rolling around already, you didn't come with anything, use this prompt. And what is it that my heart is wanting me to make a choice or a decision about? And just let that float up. Your heart knows the way. That's your wisdom. That's your soul wisdom. And tune into, if I really allowed myself to step into this decision, to step into this choice, what could that make possible for me? What could that make possible for me? What would open up? What might change? And just want to drop this in too is, and am I afraid of what will happen if I choose what I really want? If you get a yes to that, then we'll drop this in. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid will happen if I really do make that choice for what I want? And we would take a moment just to release that. Just on the next 3 breaths, just release that. Release that fear. Release that projection of what you think might happen. And what would you choose if you really trusted yourself fully? What would you choose if you really trusted yourself fully? Like really trusted yourself. And take a deep breath with that. Notice where trust lives in your body. Notice that there's more of a sense of maybe relaxation or safety or openness. Notice how that feels in your body. Trust. And then tuning into, what's one inspired action I can take from this knowing? Like really just trusting myself. What's one inspired action I can take from this place, from this knowing? And whatever that inspired action is, really make sure it's an inspired action. Like this is where we bring it from the soul down to the soles of our feet. We actually, like, this is something we can schedule and we're going to do, whether it was to take a walk, make a phone call, whether it was to sit down and start writing about something, whether it was to, launch something, like in the first step of that, whatever it might be. You don't need to force any clarity. You just need to create the space for it to arrive, just the space for that clarity to arrive. So you can do this process as many times as you need to. And what I like is daily doing it. And it's something that I also teach in Sacred Wealth Mastery, that we tune in regularly and we take inspired actions regularly based on what's coming through. That way, when the big decisions come, they are not so monumental. It doesn't feel like there's so much at stake because, again, like the marathon runner, you've already been training. You've made many, you've moved forward with many inspired actions that are maybe don't feel as weighty. So then it just becomes natural. You're conditioned for it. If you've got a big decision to make, I guarantee I'm just hearing to remind you that you've probably already made the choice. You just haven't fully come to peace with it. So give yourself some space, give yourself some time. That's where you're going to have to work through the fear on it. Again, something else we do, and it's one of the phases in Sacred Wealth Mastery, is really clearing all those beliefs. Very, very, very important. I do that in my Sacred Wealth code, my Sacred Wealth full moon healing circles. There's a membership. It's $27 a month for that. You can find the link with the show. And we do that through all kinds of practices as well. So we're going to pull an oracle card that really to anchor in what's come up today on our theme here, and talk about, just get some guidance here from the oracle deck. If you're not familiar with the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck, then you can also, the link to it is down in the show notes as well. You can find on Amazon your Sacred Wealth Code book, oracle card, and journal, and you also on my website, soulutionary.com, SOUL. Oh, that's interesting. So the card that comes up here is the Magician. And the Magician we talked about a little bit earlier. This is the card that represents Rahu, the north node of the moon. And I love the picture on this. Anyway, this is, I'm a master manifester. So what's coming through with this card is for you to remember you are a master manifester. And that's the process of involution. That's taking energy and that's creating something from energy. So being very clear, that clarity, that decision that you make brings in the clarity. When you bring in the clarity, you make a choice. When you're making the choice, then we start to gather energy up for that. You can bring your practices in of how you're going to feel when you make this particular choice. And that's always good to really recognize, because you don't want to be in fear. You don't want to be contracted in any way, like we talked about, but it's going to be specific to you, whether this is something that's going to, enliven you, whether it's going to make you feel peaceful or more free or whatever it is, but tune into that feeling quality and spend time, writing it out or seeing it through in your visioning, so that you allow it to start to take form from an energetic place. Then stepping into it will be a lot easier. And then just one inspired action at a time. But also with the Magician, we have to watch out for shiny objects, because you may know this decision and you may have made the choice around it, and it will really grow your business. And likely you have a choice like that. Maybe you actually have made at some internal level, but you've gotten caught up in external things and haven't allowed yourself to move forward with it. So the reminder here is one inspired action at a time. Make the choice, make it internally, and then to make it externally, allow it to evolve one inspired action at a time. You've got to reel back from having to know how it's all going to play out. That's just going to keep you stuck and keep you confused. And what you have to give is incredibly important. The next thing that you're evolving into, incredibly important. So trust yourself to choose from expansion and not from fear. I want to thank you for being here. I want to remind you that if you have any questions or topics for me, please email me at askprema@soulutionary.com. If you are wondering how you can come in for some deeper guidance with me, I encourage you to send me an email. You can just say Sacred Wealth Mastery or just say the word invite, and I will send you the details on how you can come in and start to work at a deep level based on your soul blueprint for your divine timing, your divine gifts, your purpose, your next level of success, having that all line up in your unique way, because we are not cookie cutter. We all have a very unique pathway. I thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode, and so much love to you.